Good evening, Fight Owls. Let's take a look at UFC 47 coming up, with 2 title fights on the main and co-main event. Some pretty good fights down the card as well. But for now, I just want to talk about 3 fights on this card I really want to go over through. Let's start with the main event. Jon Jones going against Dominic Reyes. And guys, I have to be a little honest, I'm a little bit worried for Jon Jones with this one. Dominic Reyes is no joke. Especially when you have an undefeated guy coming in full of confidence. Not just undefeated actually, but undefeated with 9 out of his 12 wins by first round finish. So he's going in there with an unimaginable kind of confidence. And I don't think the Jon Jones mystique is going to get to him at all. Because so many people, when they go in with the GOAT, they lose everything. They can't seem to pull the trigger, their confidence disappears. We saw that happening with Anthony Smith. I don't think anything similar at all is going to happen with Dominic Reyes. Possibly we might get some shades of that if he tires himself out trying to finish Jon Jones in the first couple of rounds. And then if it goes into the later rounds, we might see a mental fatigue when he realises he's against the best in the world here. That's if the fight gets that far. We know Dominic Reyes comes in hard in that first round. And the second and the third, to be fair. If you look back at one of the only 3 decisions he's had in his entire pro career, he's still going swinging in that third round. Now we'll see how well his cardio keeps up within the championship rounds. But I expect that same aggression unless he mentally fatigues, as I mentioned earlier. And the names this guy has beaten, recent ones, Chris Weidman, Volkan Ozdemir, Ovin St. Preux, Jared Cannonier, and these are top guys. I know some of you want to argue that Chris Weidman is on his way out, but that is still a high level fighter right there that he finished in the first round. And that Volkan Ozdemir, to be fair, I actually had Volkan winning that fight. It was a split decision, but I had Volkan Ozdemir winning. But anyway, Dominic Reyes got the nod with that, and he still stays undefeated. As for the champ, Jon Jones, we have seen him fight every kind of fighter that there is. I think the only type, which is why there was so much hype about Johnny Walker coming up, we've never seen Jon Jones fight anyone that crazy. I know Thiago Santos was kind of there, but Johnny Walker is another level of crazy. But it seems like we're going to have quite a while before we see Jon Jones face him anyway. Dominic Reyes also has his own special blend of crazy. He's a wild man. He throws everything, anywhere, very aggressive. But Jon Jones has dealt with all of that before. He's very good at keeping people at a distance and frustrating them when they can't get to him. And that's one of the big things I see happening in this fight, especially when you get aggressive fighters who are so used to just charging towards people and having their way, putting their own will, and then you see them someone who's able to stop that. When they're not able to impose their will on someone, frustration starts to seek in, which is what I see happening with Dominic Reyes. Now, one thing that does worry me about the way Jones has been fighting as of late, especially in his last fight with Thiago Santos. We all know Jon Jones likes to beat people at their own game. Now with Santos, he kept it striking, even though we know Jones's grappling resume. He could have easily taken him down and grappled with him the whole fight, but he chose to keep it standing. The only thing that worries me with that is we saw, even with the injury that Santos had, that was a very close fight. That was too close of a call. And who knows what kind of judge could have been there that day. That fight could have gone the other way and we would have seen a new champion that day. So I didn't like that he left that fight too close, even though he had all these other tools he could have used and dominated with. But he chose to fight Santos at his own game, which he very nearly lost. So I do worry that Jones will make that mistake with Reyes, because you cannot make a mistake like that with him. If you fight Reyes at his own game, he will eventually catch you with something. He's so wild, he's so aggressive. And I know Jones is used to keeping people at a distance. He's very good at that. With those teep kicks, especially those long legs of his. But Reyes is the same height as him, even though Jones does have the longer reach, but I think that's just arm reach. If Jones plays that "I'm going to beat you at what you like to do" game, it might not end well for him. especially at a heavy weight class like this where it only takes one punch, and we've seen Reyes' knockout power. If I was in Jones's camp, this entire training camp would all be about grappling, wrestling, clinching, taking Reyes down and dominating him on the ground. Don't take that chance on the feet with him. It's not worth the risk because anything can happen. It doesn't matter if you're the GOAT. Everyone's human. Everyone can get caught with something. The key to victory for Reyes would be to stay calm when Jones starts doing his keeping you at a distance, those oblique kicks, those really annoying teep kicks he throws to the body. Don't get frustrated with Jones. Take your time, pick your shots, use your feints, and then get in range. He cannot allow himself to get frustrated because that is how Jon Jones wins. He's a master at making people lose their concentration and make mistakes. That's how he capitalizes. Either or, I am going with and still with this one. Although I am very worried. Jon Jones is getting older. I know he's not that old, he's only 32, but the guy's been around for a long, long time. I mean, the youngest UFC champion ever. I still believe he has at least 3-4 more years left. But the older you get, the more susceptible you are to that first loss coming, the first real loss anyway. Alright, next up we've got Valentina defending her belt against Katlyn Chookagian, who has the worst nickname in all of fighting. Now both of these title fights on this card, the main and the co-main, both the challengers have pretty much just been written off. If you look at the betting lines, especially this fight, almost everyone is expecting Valentina and Jon Jones to win, which I always find crazy, especially in MMA where there are so many ways to win and so many ways to lose. Anything can happen. So I don't think it's wise to always just completely write off anyone, because all it takes is just a single moment of concentration loss, a single lucky shot, and then it's all done. Although lucky one-punch KOs are a lot less likely in the lighter weights in the women's division. But other crazy stuff has happened. I mean, we saw what happened with Holly Holm and Miesha Tate. Holly was a couple of minutes away from having her hand raised in that fight. And then one moment where she lost concentration, Miesha Tate took advantage, took her back and choked her out. Although it is very clear that Valentina is the better fighter between these two. But as Brett Okamoto very notably pointed out, Chookagian's only 2 losses are to 2 women who went in to challenge for the title, Jessica Eye and Liz Carmouche. Even though that Jessica Eye fight, a different judge, a different day, Chookagian would have had her hand raised in that fight. Anyway, she's a very focused striker. Does pick her shots well. She doesn't throw wild haymakers. She doesn't go for broke. Everything that she throws is with intent and with precision. So that would make it a harder fight for Valentina, who's a counter striker. We haven't really seen much of Chookagian's ground game. She does prefer to strike. And I do believe Valentina is going to test her grappling in this fight. I mean, it's amazing how this woman comes from a Muay Thai background and has managed to develop her game so well for MMA that her ground game is also a threat as much as her striking. I mean, we saw just how much of a well-rounded fighter she is when she fought Joanna, because Joanna also comes from Muay Thai background. And if you look back from those 3 fights that they had in Muay Thai and then seeing how both of those women have progressed in mixed martial arts, and with that fight seeing that Valentina is the more well-rounded fighter, is the one who has progressed the most, not just in her striking but also her grappling, her clinch work, her ground game, her wrestling, everything. I mean, she is a scary, scary woman, and props to Chookagian for calling for this fight. Valentina is definitely the more well-rounded fighter, and I see her finishing this fight very dominantly. If she takes it to the ground, I believe it's going to be a dominant win and possibly a submission win. But if Valentina loses concentration, even for just a second, Chookagian does have the ability to take full advantage of that and win this fight. Okay, down the main card we have Derek Lewis welcoming Ilir Latifi to the heavyweight division. Now I'm really looking forward to this fight. Super excited for this one. Like every Derek Lewis fight, I never expect it to go the full 3 rounds. But we'll see. Now, I'm very surprised that Latifi's moving up to heavyweight. And he's not a very tall guy, he's only 5'8". So very short for the division. And he's gonna struggle quite some length with a reach. But then again, we do have Daniel Cormier, who's only 5'9", I believe. So we'll see how well he manages getting within range and getting his shots in. And I'm surprised he accepted his first fight to be against Derek Lewis for 2 reasons. One, Derek Lewis is a big man. He actually cuts down just to make the heavyweight limit. He's a big boy. And the second reason being Latifi's coming off a knockout loss to Volkan Ozdemir. And now he's fighting one of the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division. I mean, Derek Lewis just flatlines people with his power. So that shows to Latifi's confidence that he's able to get around that. I do think he's going to try and wrestle. We know he has a good wrestling game, good submission game. And he is very explosive. Athletically, he by far has the advantage against Derek Lewis. He'll definitely have the speed advantage, and that explosive energy of his will be an advantage in this fight. And if I was in his team, this entire camp, I would be getting his cardio to the highest level possible so he can put a pace on Derek Lewis. It's no secret that Derek Lewis tires out. Lewis doesn't even try to hide it anymore. I mean, he knows his cardio is not the best. So Latifi's best bet is to wear Derek Lewis down, completely wear him out for the first round, pick things up in the second round, and then he might get a finish later on in the second round or the third. Although that third round, that's where Derek Lewis has most of his finishes. When he is tired, when it looks like he's about to lose the fight, out of nowhere, completely flatlines, guys, out of nowhere. It's as if he's baiting people in. He acts tired, he acts hurt, and then out of nowhere he just comes up with these haymakers which put people out completely. We saw that against Alexander Volkov and many other fights, to be fair, that Derek Lewis has had. So Latifi needs to be careful that when he sees that Lewis is tired, when he sees he's hurting him, he needs to stay reserved, stay composed, and try not to chase the finish too much. Otherwise he will get caught with one of those, no matter how tired and hurt Lewis is. Although saying that, I'm going to go with the Black Beast with this one. I think he's just too big for Latifi. The size will make a difference. If this goes grappling, it doesn't matter how good your technique is. We've seen Derek Lewis just shrug guys off him like it's nothing when they're using pure technique and just stands up using his raw power. Even though I think Latifi is slick enough to sneak in a submission, Lewis is just too strong. He doesn't even need the technique to get himself out of troublesome positions. The size difference is too much with this one. I would have liked to see Ilir make his debut against someone much lighter. Maybe him being the smaller guy would be an advantage. Like I said, he's going to have the speed, he's going to have the athleticism and the cardio. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm going with my man Derek Lewis with this one. Overall, really good card. I won't go over the rest of the fight card, but there are some really good ones in here. Definitely keeping an eye out for Jimmy Rivera. I mean, we remember when this guy first came in to the UFC and was on his rise on a 21 unbeaten streak. A lot of hype was around this guy. He's had a few ups and downs recently, but I still believe this is a guy who's going to challenge for the title within the next couple of years. Thank you for watching. This is a new channel, so please do like the video and subscribe to the channel, and do comment your video request down below. Enjoy the fights, guys.